Making the headlines, Environment Minister Tariq Ibrahim says a significant majority of the country's population will receive basic services such as water and sanitation during the first term of President Abdul Yamin Abdul Qayyum. Attorney General Muhammad Anil says all state institutions should become familiar with the Criminal Procedures Act. And British Defence Secretary says Western-backed Syrian forces should block off IS militants' de facto capital in Syria by the spring before an offensive on the city itself.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to news in English here on TVM with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. And now the news in detail. Environment Minister Tariq Ibrahim says a significant majority of the country's population will receive basic services such as water and sanitation during the first term of President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Qayyum. Attorney General Muhammad Anil says all state institutions should become familiar with the Criminal Procedures Act. And British Defence Secretary Michael Fallon says Western-backed Syrian forces should block off IS militants' de facto capital in Syria by the spring before an offensive on the city itself. And now we'll take a look at the news in detail. Environment Minister Tariq Ibrahim says a significant majority of the country's population will receive basic services such as water and sanitation during the first term of President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Qayyum. The minister said storage systems have been established in 18 islands over the past 3 years since the administration came to power, while water supply networks have been set up in 15 islands. According to the Environment Ministry, projects are currently underway to build storage systems in 21 islands, while water supply networks are being set up in another 12 islands. Environment Minister Tariq said that providing water and storage services to the population is a high priority of the current administration and not the successful implementation of such projects across the country. He added that several water and storage projects planned for this year are currently in the planning stages. 11,000 new members joined the ruling Progressive Party of Maldives, PPM. The 11,000 signatures were collected under the party's efforts to increase its membership to 100,000. The application forms of the new members were officially handed over to First Lady Fatma Ibrahim at a special function held at Tajuddin School last night. PPM has been working on increasing the number of members in the party, with its members working across the country to sign up new members. PPM recently became the country's largest political party. After achieving this goal, PPM has set its sights on taking its membership to 100,000. Attorney General Muhammad Anil says all state institutions should become familiar with the Criminal Procedure Act. He made the statement at function held today to commence a program to train officials of relevant government institutions before the implementation of the Criminal Procedure Act. The Attorney General said while maintaining peace and harmony in the country remains one of the main priorities of the government, all institutions should work to protect the rights of everyone, including victims and those accused of crimes. He added that the Act should protect the rights of everyone equally. Officials from the Maldives Police Service and the Attorney General's office attended the training sessions. The Criminal Procedure Act is set to take effect on the 2nd of July this year. After some thrilling performances and nerve-wracking eliminations, 16 contestants make their way to the top 16 of Maldivian Idol Season 2.
The concluding show of the theatre round of Maldivian Idol Season 2 was aired last night. Last night's show saw 24 participants who survived the first show of the theatre round perform solo songs in front of the judges. On the first show of the theatre round, all 44 participants who received golden tickets during the auditions performed group acts, and of which 24 were left standing. And another 8 unlucky participants had to leave the show after last night's performance. The theatre round of Maldivian Idol Season 2 was filmed in Mathiveri Island of Alif Alif Atoll and a nearby sandbank.
Maldives National Defence Force MNDF begins inspecting marine vessels as part of its ongoing operation to ensure maritime safety. The operation, titled Hirafas, initiated by the Defence Ministry, is conducted jointly by the MNDF Fire and Rescue Service and the Coast Guard. MNDF said under the operation, passenger and cargo vessels would be checked to ensure that maritime safety regulations are followed. It added that the checks would include testing communications and GPS devices. The inspection program was kicked off today at the Male North Harbour area. Speaking about the program, the MNDF Fire and Rescue Services Deputy Commander Major Muhammad Nadeem said in addition to inspecting vessels, they will conduct awareness sessions for seafarers under the week-long operation. MNDF is also planning to conduct a similar operation in the atolls. In business, we have Economic Ministry says $1.6 billion worth of foreign investment permits were issued during 2016. According to the ministry, this is a $3 million increase compared to foreign investment permits issued in 2015. Speaking at a media briefing session, Register of Companies of the ministry, Mariam Wissam, said that $1.6 billion worth of foreign investment permits were issued in 2016, 80% of which were tourism sector investments. She said the remaining 20% of investment permits were issued for logistics projects. The Economic Ministry states that when issuing foreign investment permits, they consider the sectors in which the investor is interested in, the financial aspects of the investment, and job opportunities which would be created through the project. National carrier Maldivian adds a new aircraft to its seaplane fleet. The new aircraft landed at Velana International Airport last night. With the new addition, the seaplane fleet of Maldivian has now been increased to 9. The twin Otto aircraft was acquired from Switzerland. Maldivian currently provides seaplane services to 6 resorts. Tulustu Island Council says around 30 guest houses will be developed in the island by the end of this year. Currently, the island has 17 guest houses, and the council plans to further expand tourism in the island. Under the effort, 2 zones have been allocated from the newly reclaimed area for guest house and other related infrastructure development. President of Tulustu Council, Muhammad Anis, hopes that the increase in guest houses will open up employment opportunities for the island's youth. Tulustu is a preferred destination among surfers as the island is located near a popular surf point. Thailand officially opens its first halal hotel in Bangkok, which it hopes will attract more tourists following US President Donald Trump's immigration ban on 7 mostly Muslim countries.
The 4-star hotel, called Al Miruz, offers facilities that serve the requirements of Muslim visitors, such as a prayer room and halal food. The hotel has 242 rooms, currently used by tourists from Malaysia, Indonesia and the Gulf states. Earlier in January, Thailand's tourism authority said the country might get more tourists from the Middle East as a result of US President Donald Trump's entry ban on people from 7 mostly Muslim countries. The hotel's manager director Sanya Senggung said he saw a business opportunity following the news.
one part of me said very delightful in the way of that means business is coming to Thailand. And I don't think it's necessary to go to America. And in fact, the people that in one of or the two of those band is a good friend of Thailand. We still expect a very good visitor coming to that area, from that area.
Only just over 2% of tourists visiting Thailand came from the Middle East in 2016, but that's expected to rise by 8% in the first quarter of 2017. Thailand's Tourism and Sports Minister Khopkhan Wattanrangkul said the country has seen an increase in visitors from Gulf states as it remains the #1 medical hub for many of the Muslim countries. Muslims represent the second biggest religion group in Thailand behind Buddhists, but make up only about 5% of the population.
Two people have been killed and 15 others injured after a passenger vehicle collided with a bus in Doda town in India's northernmost Jammu and Kashmir state. The accident took place at Patut Kishwar National Highway, about 15 kilometers away from Doda, when the passenger vehicle lost control and collided head-on with a bus coming from the opposite direction. Police and local residents rushed to the spot and began rescuing the injured. All the injured were shifted to Doda Hospital, where the condition of two is reported to be critical. India has the world's deadliest roads, the result of a flood of untrained drivers, inadequate law enforcement, badly maintained highways and cars that fail modern crash tests. In India, a person is killed in a road accident every 4 minutes. A government report shows deaths in road accidents are more than 4 times the deaths by terror attacks in India. A total of 139,671 people lost their lives on India's roads in 2014. Video footage shows that Syrian government forces appear to be advancing on IS-held territory in the eastern countryside of Aleppo province. According to state media, the video comes as reports confirm that Syria's army has secured a string of villages on the southern edge of IS-held city of Al-Bab in a campaign that has made rapid gains against the militants in recent days. The state-owned Ikhbariya news channel said the army had control of the villages of Tom, Uashia, Hawarat, Tadef and several others and were now clearing out hundreds of mines and explosives planted by the militants. British Defence Secretary Michael Fallon says Western-backed Syrian forces should block off IS militants' de facto capital in Syria by the spring before an offensive on the city itself.
The Syrian Democratic Forces, which includes the powerful Syrian YPG militia, launched a campaign to dislodge IS from Raqqa in November. It announced this month the start of a new phase in the offensive, aiming to complete its encirclement of the city and cut off the road to the militant stronghold in Deir al-Zor, southeast of Raqqa.
But the Syrian Democratic Forces are now moving towards Raqqa and preparing to isolate the city from the north and from the west. I hope that isolation will be completed by the spring, and then operations to liberate Raqqa itself can begin thereafter. And once Raqqa is liberated after Mosul, we will see the beginning of the end of this terrible caliphate.
IS is fighting hard to preserve its foothold in Syria as it loses ground in Iraq. US-backed Iraqi and Kurdish forces last month dislodged the militants from the eastern side of Mosul, their last city stronghold in Iraq, and are preparing an offensive of the parts of the city that lie west of the Tigris River.
We expect to see Daesh expelled from the major towns and cities of Iraq during the course of this year. There are remnants of Daesh in the Euphrates River Valley, and north and west of Mosul itself. But we hope that Iraq can be cleared of Daesh during this year. Campaign over in Syria is complicated, as I said, by the continuing civil war there. But again, I hope the campaign to isolate and then to liberate the people of Raqqa will begin in the next few months.
Turkish presidential sources said Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and US President Donald Trump have now agreed to act together regarding the IS-controlled Syrian towns of Al-Bab and Raqqa. IS declared the caliphate in parts of Syria and Iraq in 2014.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says that he is hopeful that the efforts of the parties involved in the Cyprus peace talks will allow a breakthrough in the near future.
Cyprus was split by a Turkish invasion in 1974 that followed a brief coup engineered by the military then ruling Greece. It has remained split ever since, with Turkish Cypriots in the north of the island and Greek Cypriots in the south. Talks in Geneva last month failed to produce a breakthrough over the former British colony through Britain, Greece and Turkey. Its guarantor powers under a 1960 independence treaty agreed to continue consultations on security arrangements which could govern Cyprus after a settlement. Speaking at a joint news conference with Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yildirim, UN Chief Antonio Guterres said he was hopeful that a breakthrough could be achieved.
I am hopeful that the efforts of the two communities that go on meeting at the highest level and the efforts of the guarantor powers will allow for a breakthrough in the near future. A breakthrough able to fully respect the concerns of the Turkish Cypriot community about its security, but at the same time compatible with the concerns of the Greek Cypriot community.
He also said that he wants that representation in the talks to be inclusive of all the relevant parties.
The only thing we want is that representation to be inclusive of all the relevant parties of the opposition, both at the level of the armed groups that were in Astana and also of the political component that is absolutely essential.
The leaders of ethnically split Cyprus have asked the United Nations to prepare for a new peace conference in early March with guarantor powers Britain, Turkey and Greece.
South Korea's military says it will be ready to defend against North Korea's provocations after Pyongyang test-fired a ballistic missile. The South's military said North Korea fired a ballistic missile into the sea of its east coast early on Sunday, the first time the isolated state has tested such a device since the election of US President Donald Trump. The South's Office of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missile was launched from an area called Pangyon in North Korea's western zone just before 2300 hours GMT Saturday and flew about 300 miles. North Korea conducted 2 nuclear tests and numerous missile-related tests in 2016 and was seen by experts and officials to be making progress in its weapons capabilities, although until a Sunday no ballistic missile launch attempt had been detected since October. Its repeated missile launches have prompted Washington and Seoul to agree to deploy a terminal high-altitude area defense THAAD anti-missile battery in South Korea later this year, which is strongly opposed by Beijing, which worries the system's powerful radar undermines its own security. The Japanese government has resumed work on a controversial US airbase on the Japanese island of Okinawa, sparking angry protests and scuffles with police.
The Japanese and the US government want to move the Futenama airbase located in the crowded city of Genovan in Okinawa Prefecture to a sparsely populated area in the north for safety reasons. But many Okinawians want it off the island altogether. Okinawa Governor Takeshi Onaga had tried to block efforts to reclaim land for the new offshore facility. He and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe filed rival lawsuits to try to settle the issue. However, the Supreme Court in December ruled in favor of the central government, giving the green light to move ahead the construction. It is believed that Abe traveled to Washington earlier this week with an assurance to US President Donald Trump that the new airbase will go ahead. Almost 3/4 of all US military personnel deployed to Japan are stationed on Okinawa, where their bases occupy more than 10% of the island. Most locals want this base scrapped together with the other 32 US military sites on Okinawa and surrounding islands. On Friday, many placard-waving protesters gathered early in the morning at the US Camp Schwab military base, vowing to continue protesting until the US bases are removed from the region. And at a semi-permanent protesters' camp in the island's north, organizers say public concerns range from cases of sexual assault and murder to environmental damage. One uncomfortable reality is that the US military is a major source of income for the island. Base closures would have a sizable economic impact on the island, but that seems to be a cost more and more locals are willing to bear if it means a reduction in the US military presence.
Bolivian farmers and government officials are fighting a locust plague, threatening corn and sorghum harvest just as agricultural areas were starting to recover from the South American country's worst drought in a quarter century.
President of a corn and sorghum producers group said the locust, first reported in late January in Bolivia's eastern grains belt, have affected around 1,000 hectares of crops and 500 producers. Government authorities and farmers were preparing on Friday to fumigate 300 hectares of crops with the ultimate goal of spraying some 17,000 hectares and preventing the plague from spreading and endangering the food supply. The plague follows a severe drought in Bolivia that prompted controversial water rationing, conflicts between miners and farmers over aquifer use, and slashed agricultural harvest, requiring a sharp increase in imports. Recent rains have relieved Santa Cruz and inspired optimism for the year's crops, although drought continues to afflict the main city of La Paz. For the moment, the 1,000 hectares affected by locust represents only a small fraction of the 100,000 hectares planted with grains in Santa Cruz department. Bolivian President Evo Morales flew over the affected area and met with local farmers on the ground on Friday. According to the private Bolivian Institute of Foreign Trade, Bolivia, normally self-sufficient in grain production, had to import more than 100,000 tons of corn worth $21 million in 2016, largely from Argentina. The country also imported 2,000 tons of sorghum worth $5 million.
In sports, we have the South Korean city of Pyeongchang host freestyle skiing events its first of test ahead of 2018 Winter Olympics.
Pyeongchang has waited a long time to host the Winter Olympics, suffering 2 failed bids before securing success with the 2018 Games. Pyeongchang will stage Asia's first Winter Games outside Japan and kick off an Asian Olympic cycle that reflects the region's growing influence on world sport, with Tokyo hosting the 2020 Summer Games and Beijing holding the 2022 Winter Olympics. Located in the mountainous Gangwon province, some 180 kilometers east of Seoul, Pyeongchang failed in bids for the 2010 and 2014 Winter Games. But Pyeongchang organizers chief Lee Hee-byom said the fact that the next 3 Olympic Games would be staged in Northeast Asia was a clear signal of the region's strength. The build-up to the Games has been anything but smooth, with organizers forced to overcome initial reluctance from corporate sponsors as well as political influence peddling scandal that threatened to taint the Games. President Park Geun-hye was impeached over accusations she colluded with longtime friend Choi Soon-sil to pressure big businesses into donating to 2 foundations set up to back the president's policy initiatives. Taking place 30 years after Seoul claimed its place on the global sporting stage by hosting the 1988 Summer Games, the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics will see South Korea join an elite group of countries to complete the hosting Grand Slam. Only Japan, Germany, Italy and France have hosted both Winter and Summer Games, a Soccer World Cup and a World Athletics Championships. The United States will also complete the set when it stages Track and Field's global showpiece event in 2021.
Before summing up, we'll look at a light news. Taraji P. Henson is the big winner at the 48th NAACP Image Awards, taking home both the television and film Best Actress awards, while her film Hidden Figures scooped the Outstanding Motion Picture prize.
And the NAACP Image Award goes to Hidden Figures.
Actress Taraji P. Henson dominated the stage at the 48th American National Association for the Advancement of Colored People Image Awards on Saturday, picking up Outstanding Actress in a Television Drama Series for Empire, as well as getting the Outstanding Actress in a Motion Picture for Hidden Figures. That film also went on to win the main prize, the Outstanding Motion Picture Award. Picking up that award, Henson's co-star Janelle Monáe noted the movie's message of unity. Henson also graced the stage to announce the Outstanding Actor in a Motion Picture to Denzel Washington for his role in the movie adaptation of August Wilson play Fences. Washington used his acceptance speech to make a statement to never give up. Unlike some of the other recent award shows in the season, there were few political messages given by winners and presenters. However, South African comedian Trevor Noah, who hosts The Daily Show, made a quip against the Trump administration. The show opened with the theme song from The Birth of a Nation performed live by Andrade, which acted as an homage to Barack Obama and his work as a US president, with photos of him and his family projected on a screen behind Day. Other notable winners included Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who picked up the Entertainer of the Year, beating off the likes of Beyonce and Viola Davis, and Sterling K. Brown, who won Outstanding Actor in a Drama Series for This Is Us.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant night ahead.